Okay, hey, we are live with Mrs. Hope Zvara. Hope, what's going on?
Hey, not a whole lot. Super excited to be here today and be chatting with you.
Absolutely. It's good to see you again. And I met you at the not scale, but the signature talk workshop, which is actually part of scale your growth business anyway. But yeah, that was amazing. You're an awesome coach and trainer. And I just want, I'm glad I could have you on my podcast.
Yeah, I think the feeling's mutual. I really love your approach to sales and to business, and I have a little bit of background in the real estate area, so I think we kind of connected there. And I just like what you're doing, so I'm super excited to be on talking with you today.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I like, you have like you're kind of like in me in a way with a direct, to the point approach, which I can appreciate. So I always,
I like
try
to
to-
cut through the noise. There's not a, life is precious, and I'm not a dance around things kind of gal. So no,
nice.
this is going to be a fun conversation.
All right. So the name of your company is Mother Trucker Yoga. Okay. And you also have a book. It's the Trucking Yoga Simple Fitness for the Long Haul, which is super cool. You're a mother, a CEO of, I'm sorry, CEO. You are a mother as well, but you're CEO of Mother Trucker Yoga. The mother keeps throwing me off. A
It's all good.
company. It's a company dedicated to improving truck drivers' fitness and wellness standards. She's been featured on Forbes, Yahoo News, and two-time Emmy nominated show Startup. Hope Hope's practical strategies show drivers how they can go from unhealthy and out of options to feeling good again, all while living over the road as a trucker. Man, I still got to work on my bio. So I'll tell you, I either that or I need bigger glasses. Like things need to be larger. So how's it going today?
It's going good. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. First off, what is Mother Trucker Yoga, and tell us about that. And then we want to obviously know, like, how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mother Trucker Yoga is a company that's dedicated towards drivers' health and wellness, specifically the drivers that are over the road, meaning they don't necessarily get to go home every night, although this works for really anybody in the driver's seat. We're really targeting over the road truck drivers' biggest pain points, and that's the inability to get up out of the driver's seat and exercise in traditional methods. So when someone's saying, hey, you should exercise more, a truck driver has a lot more limitations than an average person like yourself or myself.
Mm,
They don't have access to a gym. They don't have space for a lot of big, bulky equipment. Sometimes safety is an issue depending on where they're parked. It's not as simple as just go exercise outside your truck, especially for the population of women that are out there, although I primarily work with men. So, really trying to show these drivers simple strategies that they can do in minutes a day, a lot of it right from the driver's seat, even while driving, so that they can improve their all over health and wellness. We're talking about back pain, we're talking about brain fog, sleep issues. These are common things that plague drivers every single day. And quite frankly,
mm.
plague anybody that spends a lot of time behind the wheel. And we offer solutions for them.
Okay, that's excellent. And how did you know? So there's two things here, right? Like first off, how did you know that was going to be your ideal client, or did you just know? I mean, at some point, I'm guessing it occurred to you. And then, how did you come up with such a cool name?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Well, first of all, I have a background in health and fitness. I've been in the yoga world for almost 20 years. And 4 years ago, I should say a little bit longer than that, I kind of felt like I hit the cap in my market. I had a yoga studio here in Wisconsin, a state approved vocational school teaching teachers. And I kind of felt like this was the end of my road, that it was like there was nothing more that I could do. I didn't want to be teaching more. I had tried to be back off teaching, had grown a great reputation, done all the fitness conferences, done all that, but I kind of felt like that was never where I belonged totally. And so I was just kind of like, okay, universe, show me a sign where I'm supposed to go next. And that was on my mind for about 2 years. And then in 2017, I was at a local business mixer here in my small hometown here in Wisconsin with my husband. And I started talking to a guy that I'd never met before. And I'm trying to pitch him corporate yoga because that's partly what I did at the time. And he looks at me and says, do you have anything for truck drivers, like in the cab of the truck? And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and I was like, Mother Trucker Yoga, just trying to get a rise out of this guy. Like, it's a conversation. I want to laugh. And he
Mm,
looks at me and says, That's brilliant. You want to go into business together? And I shook his hand. And the next morning he called me and said, Are we doing this together? And we built a business from scratch in 4 months, launched at the largest truck show in 2018. And then a year later, I bought him out of the business because, well, I was kind of doing everything. It was my vision, my drive, kind of what I was doing, although he was in trucking. So that was kind of like the connection there. But
mm,
really, our name was just born out of a conversation randomly, just kind of making a joke, and it just stuck. It just was like, this is brilliant. And when we did the research in trucking, there were a few people in the industry doing health and fitness, but not the way I thought it should be done. And so we saw a need, we saw a niche opportunity, we saw an audience and need, and I just jumped all over it. I felt like I can use all my skills, my approach to health and fitness that I have been using for years in more of a traditional setting that
mm.
could possibly make a bigger impact. And so I jumped.
That's amazing. Well, let me ask you this: how important is the name? Do you like? Because I think a lot of people listening right now, we have business ideas, we have things we want to launch. How important is the name?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've learned a lot over the last 20 years being in business about branding and marketing. And I'm a firm believer that if you're not remembered, it doesn't matter how good your product is. And so, does my name ruffle feathers? Absolutely. Does my name make people laugh? Absolutely. Does my name turn some people off? Absolutely. But I think it's memorable and I think it speaks volumes. And one of the things I've seen over the last 4 years is it creates conversation.
Mm,
And so I'll be at a truck show or I'll be at an event and people will laugh and they'll come up to us and be like, Mother Trucker Yoga. If I just had a lame name like Driver Health, they probably wouldn't come up to me and want to talk about the name, which gives me an opportunity to share about what we do and how I can help them. And I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people. And I think people overestimate or underestimate, I'm not sure which one, the power of good branding and a good name. I think a lot of people like using their name as their branding, and I'm not against that. But if nobody knows who you are, how is that going to help you, especially in the beginning?
yeah, it's really, really important. One of the things too I took from the workshop that we did together was, you, Pat, as well as you and the other coaches, are really, really good at creating purposeful, intentional names. Like even like I was doing a workshop called the sales workshop, right? And and then Pat was like, well, or I don't know if it was you or Pat. One of you guys was like, well, what do the people that are going to be doing your workshop want?
The
And I
results-based
said, they
title.
want
Yeah.
listings, right? So then he
Yeah.
said, well, why is it not called the Get Listings Workshop? And then, right, I mean, it's the little things like that that make the difference.
Absolutely. And you're talking specifically about products and services,
Mm,
whereas the conversation just a few moments ago was more about the name of your company.
yeah.
But I think, regardless, it has to be impactful, memorable, something that people want, something that's intriguing. I'm in the trucking industry. So, one of the great things about that is I'm a little bit more on the sarcastic side as a personality. So, I feel like this is great for me because I'm a pretty straight shooter, but I like to have fun. Like, very few things offend me in life, and I feel like in the trucking industry, you can have fun with that stuff, and you
Mm,
can lighten the mood a little bit. And what a great conversation piece! Do I teach truckers yoga? Yes and no. I teach them things that I've learned from yoga, the mindfulness, the stretching, but really I'm packaging it in a way that's much more applicable to them and really most people in today's world. Most of us don't have time or want to take time, is more important, to work out for 60 minutes or get to the yoga mat. But what if there was a way that you could add more movement into your day and by the end of the day have worked out, quote unquote, for 15, 20, 30, even 60 minutes, simply by making a more mindful effort to add movement throughout the day? And if you do go to the gym, if you do go to yoga, that's a bonus. And so
mm,
that's really the lifestyle that I'm trying to promote with drivers, and really what I was trying to promote for the last 15 years prior to trucking, that we keep putting fitness in a box. And that's part of the challenge. And that's also, I think, part of the turnoff for people is the more we put something in a box and try to fit it places, the more excuses we have to not apply it. And so for those of you out there that are, selling something or offering something, how do you do what everyone does differently? That's how I do fitness differently. That's how I do
Mm.
health differently. And so sometimes it's about how you approach something that's very common amongst other people that can help you niche down and help you make a better name for yourself. And then on top of that, naming your products and services, things that your audience wants versus the actual title of what you're doing, which is very analytical a lot of times. We think it's great, but the audience isn't interested yet.
Yeah. Well, that's why I brought it up, because I'm getting people into a webinar, and I'm calling it the sales execution webinar, and then they're like, well, the people coming in, what do they want? Do they want sales execution, or do they want? I'm like, actually, they're looking for listings. Then it should be called the get listings, right?
It
So
opens your mind completely
yeah.
to a different way of communicating. And I talk about this a lot in a clarity workshop that I run, that, we tend to think on a professional level, the professional language, how we describe stuff, because we're at the finish line already. But for our clients and customers, they're not at the finish line. So we have to describe it for like our old version of ourselves, or when we first started, or where people are at the starting line, which is a totally different language. And I think as professionals, we aren't taught that. And it's like overlooked for whatever reason. And sometimes I'm like, is it not fancy enough? Is it not fun enough? And I think sometimes there is a lure to that. Like, that's not nearly as sexy as, here's this formula to make 100K in 10 days. And then we're over here like, hey, here's how to title your workshop effectively. But that can be the difference between having butts and seats and not.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there's two things we need to, first off, you help people with yoga, with movement, with health and all that. But you also help people with developing their message and getting better at what tell us exactly what you do with the workshop. I guess I'll let you
Yeah,
explain.
yeah. And so outside of Mother Trucker Yoga, this other just business or avenue kind of fell in my lap. And it was really just because I had figured this stuff out over 20 years, made a lot of mistakes, a lot of costly mistakes, and figured things out the hard way. But I've been speaking for most of my life. And then I've known, Pat Quinn for, I don't know, 20 years. And he was like, Hope, you're really good at this. You should really think about, teaching other people, what you're doing and how you're doing it. And just the way I look at communication is usually different than a lot of people do. And I pick up on details. And I have this uncanny ability to put myself in somebody else's like audience shoes and like really be there. And so I just started teaching, alongside of him and some other people when it comes to, speaking and creating a signature talk and having clarity in your business. And I just call it like marketing basics, because I'm not talking about Facebook ads. I'm not talking about, advertising on LinkedIn or, doing some fancy things on Google. I'm talking about putting your best foot forward with your branding and your marketing. No, this isn't about a fancy logo. I cringe when people put so much money and time into a logo when they're just getting started. I've seen people sell services, $100,000 plus of services with no website, no logo, no branding, no nothing, because they're clear on their message. They're clear on who their audience is, and they're clear on how they want to serve them. And I think that goes so far. And we live in this digital world and we're forgetting about these basics, and we're forgetting about this foundation. And that's really critical to the success of a business. I thought just a couple days ago, I read a statistic that it was like 3% of businesses make it in today's world. Like
Wow.
3% was a ridiculously low number. And I think we're being sold on crap, if I can say that, that we just don't need yet. And people are falling for it. And this is the same principle that I have on the fitness side and on the business side. Foundational things, the basics, getting clear on these pivotal things. That how do you communicate? And a lot of people are skipping those steps because they're not fun and they're not sexy and they're not big, and they don't see people like, Tony Robbins talking about them. But guess how Tony probably started with these basics.
Yeah.
And we're just missing them. And so I have a real passion for helping people get clarity with that, because there's nothing more painful than listening to a speaker that has no idea how to present their topic and speak in a communicative way that drives people towards an end result. Like, I just put my hands over my ears and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is painful. And I've heard some speakers, top names, I won't call them out, in big settings. I'm talking like 1,000 people arenas. Awful, just
Yeah.
awful. And I'm like, how is nobody walking out right now? This is just ridiculous. And I'm not saying that to toot my horn. I'm saying that because they could fix that. They have a message. People love them. They have a following. Like, they could be even better. And so for the little person, man, get a leg up and focus in on communication and, clear branding and clear messaging. Take that time. A little goes a long way.
That's amazing. We actually have 71 people hanging out with us right now on Clubhouse, which is super cool. What up, Clubhouse? We also have some people on, looks like LinkedIn. We're also on YouTube, and we're streaming on Facebook. So we're getting it all covered right now. I do want to find out. So I've got a question, and I'm going to see if anybody else on Clubhouse maybe has a question for you. We can take a question or two from Clubhouse. What would you say if you'd say to people listening, like, what would you give as like your number one tip for someone on how they can become clear on their niche or their audience?
That's a great question. So how can you become clear on your niche? Well, first of all, I think there's a couple questions we can ask ourselves. One, what are you passionate about? Two, what are you like just naturally good at? Three, what makes you want to wake up and make money? We got to have that money thing in there, because if you're just doing something that's a passion and an interest to you, you know what that's called? It's called a hobby. And if you want to turn your hobby into a revenue generating business, you got to ask yourself what makes you want to wake up in the morning and make money and ask people for the sale. And that's got to be in alignment. And so I think those are really critical questions. And so when I stepped into the opportunity of Mother Trucker Yoga, my whole motto for that first year was I was going to do things right this time. And when I stepped into this trucking opportunity, the niche fell in my lap. The trucking niche fell in my lap. But I'm not doing anything different than I was doing for the 15 years prior. I love movement. I love mindset. I love like small, simple changes. I love breaking things down for people. I'm really good at that. And I just took all of that and translated it into trucking. I like saw the opportunity and I narrowed in on a niche. Now, I really focus a lot in the trucking industry on the fitness side of it. I talk about nutrition, but again, it's basics because that's not my expertise. Pat and I were just talking about this yesterday. I think there's a lot of benefit for staying in your lane. And it's so hard, right? Because people are constantly coming to you with ideas or opportunities, or you should work with this person. But I'm living proof of this after 4 years. The more you stay in your lane, I am good at fitness. I am good at yoga. I am good at breaking things down into small bite-sized pieces. Like, I know my mousetrap for fitness with drivers, which could really be with anyone, but I'm staying in my lane. I'm staying in the trucking lane, the transportation lane. I'm staying in the fitness lane. And the more that I do that over these last 4 years, the more people come to me. The more people outside of trucking come to me, the more opportunities come to me. And the more I say no, I feel like the more opportunities come. And it's the opposite, which seems so contradicting to what we see out there and what we think is true. But man, if I would have figured this out 20 years ago, I think my first business would have been very different. And I was successful, but it was nothing worth bragging over. And so what are you passionate about? What are you good at? What do you want to wake up and make money and ask people to pay you for? And then when it comes to the audience, who needs what you have? I just jumped ponds. I didn't reinvent myself, you guys. And then that's a mistake I see so many people make. Where can you use your talents with an audience that needs you and go all in on them? The more you talk to one person, the more people hear you. The more you talk to everyone, the less likely anyone hears you. And I am living proof of that.
That's great. I love that. The more you talk to one person, the more they hear you. The more you talk to everyone,
nobody hears you.
Nobody's going to hear you. Yeah, because you're just getting drowned out. So, by anybody on the Clubhouse, if you give me a mic flash, if you have a question for Hope, if anybody has a question, feel free. Now's your chance to ask Hope's. Hope is like no joke, by the way. She's an absolute rock star. As high level as they come, and I love your direct sort of style. one thing I noticed about you is when I was in a workshop with you, you have a way of just like clearly and concisely telling somebody, this is what you need to do. Like no fluff whatsoever. And they're just like, thank you for that. Right.
Well,
It's
that's
like a
how I
skill.
want to be coached. I don't pay somebody 10K
Mm,
to like talk about the weather or to like just pump my ego. Like if I want my ego pumped, I'm going to call my sister. But I want real constructive feedback. Like I'm here because I see a gap in my business and I want someone to help me with that. And, you know, for me as a business coach and a speaking coach, I just feel like that's how I can help you the most. Like you're looking for answers and I'm going to give them to you, you know, and I'm going to be kind about it. You know, I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but if I see gaps, I see holes, you're paying me to show you where those are. And you know, I can't control how people react to situations. I'm a recovering addict, and so I really learned through recovery that, you know, my life is my responsibility and I can't control how people react to me and to my choices, and to my decisions. And so I had to really get good at not taking how people respond personally, because my have my their best interests at heart. If I truly want to help them, like I'm right with myself. And so the constructive feedback that I give people is really because I see their best interests at heart. I'm not interested in them being my friend. I want them to be the most successful possible. And imagine if more business coaches would be like that and actually give you real constructive feedback that
yeah.
is valuable to you. I mean, just imagine how many more entrepreneurs would be successful.
Yeah, amen. I think I like my best coach. I hate to say this, but I don't even like the guy. But I'll tell you, he he
He
pushed
was
me.
probably really
He pushed
good,
me.
like
Yeah,
really
he pushed
effective
me to
and
do things.
direct.
Yeah, yeah. Beyond things I thought were possible, he pushed me, and yeah. So anyway, Hope, you had a book. How do people get their hands on your book?
Yeah. So I wrote a book, Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul. And I want to just make a quick side note about writing a book. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are like, oh, I need to write a book. And that is the gateway to me getting more clients. Here's what I know to be true about writing a book and becoming an author. You should absolutely write a book if you have an audience that is going to buy it and read it. You should absolutely not write a book if you don't have an audience yet. It is time consuming. There is a lot that goes into it. Now, I was lucky enough to have built a foundation where a publisher reached out to me, and so I had a publisher and was able to work with that at a high level, and that was really awesome for me. I had self-published previously, and I was like, I'm done with that. I don't need to do that anymore. But I think for people that are like, I think a book is going to be the answer to all my problems, and then I'll have a successful
Yeah.
business. I'm here to tell you, I don't think that's the best road for you yet. I think a book is great when you have an audience that's requesting it and wants more of you. I think a book can be a little bit of a distraction when you have no customers yet, because nothing's stopping you from going out and having a conversation and winning a customer over and then doing that again and again and again, and then having a base of people. And a book can serve you and validate you in that way. A book's a great business card, but a book is not a business. And so looking at creating a book or writing a book to support what you're already doing and to give another option to your raving fans is 100% a great idea. And so when I wrote Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul, it was because I had built a platform of thousands of drivers that were looking for more resources in their hands. And I was lucky enough to meet a publisher that saw my vision and saw my message and saw my niche. You guys, I lured her in. I lured her in. I didn't really lure her in, but because she was blown away with my niche and my niched audience. And she saw that no one was doing anything in the publishing world in this category. So, going back to the importance of niching down and not being too broad will
Mm,
attract more people to you at a high level that will want to work with you and that will see your vision and want to be a part of that. So again, going back to, you know, being clear on your niche audience and your niche, you know, skills is going to be critical. So you can find our book on our website, mothertruckeryoga.com. You can find it over on Amazon, walmart.com, and we're on about 150 different book sites. So you can grab us anywhere if you just Google Trucking Yoga book, and that'll come up for you as well.
awesome, awesome, Hope. Yeah, and I'll tell you this, and everybody listening, my real estate business blew up when I decided to stop working with buyers and only work with sellers. It was one of the hardest things I did personally because I thought I was losing something.
Well, I'm sure everyone in the market was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, you need,
Well,
this
no,
is
my
where the
coach
money
was
is.
telling me to do it. I hired my first coach, John Alexandrov, and that was one of the first things we did. And I fought him, but I ultimately did it, and it made a huge difference. And obviously we built a system so buyers were worked by somebody else, but it wasn't me personally. So
It's funny that the things that help us the most are the things we're most resistant. Pat Quinn, for years, he's I get the honor of him being one of my coaches, and he for years was telling me to niche down, and I fought him. And 4 years ago, when I started Mother Trucker Yoga, and then I came out with the pain relief cream, Stiff Mother Trucker, and the book, and so on and so forth.
Stiff
I I know,
motherfucker.
Stiff Mother Trucker. I know.
Holy cow.
Um, I told myself.
My
I told
God.
myself that, I was going to do things different this time. I was going to do things right this time, and I was going to stay in my lane. And I think that trust is critical, because I came to my awareness a few years back where if I was so good at what I was doing, if I was doing things right, I would be further along. And this like epiphany came to me where I was just like, Hope, you're literally resisting advice from people that are where you want to be. What makes you think you are such a special unicorn? And I had this like aha moment of like, get over yourself, Hope. You don't have all the answers. You clearly are missing something in your business. You need help from people that have figured it out. And so I just really started leaning into people that had what I wanted, that were where I wanted to be, and that had figured things out. And I wasn't there yet. And that was just such a life-changing decision for me. And I think for a lot of us, we just got to get out of our own way. We just got to like soften our ego a little bit. And I don't mean ego like you're a jerk ego, but ego like it's kind of like a protection bubble,
Sure.
like don't tell me I'm not doing a good job because, I don't feel worthy. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And if we can do that, you've done that, man, look where you could go in your business.
Amen, my friend. Amen. Well, I appreciate you. Any best way for people to get in touch with you, like via social, any of that you want to throw out there? Or
Yeah, we're growing pretty fast over on Instagram, Mother Trucker Yoga. So you can check us out there. I'm on Facebook quite a bit. I'm on LinkedIn and mainly just for business connections there. But yeah, you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram, just Mother Trucker Yoga. Really easy to find us. I do a bunch of lives and post regular content there. And hey, if you think that you have something that you can contribute alongside us, I'd love to know, and reach out to me.
awesome, Hope. Well, thank you, man. It was an absolute pleasure. Appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, David, thanks so much. And keep doing what you're doing. I love everything that you've created along the way.
Thank you.